You're sitting on a plane ready for takeoff when suddenly the calm atmosphere is shattered by raised voices. Two young boys, no older than 12, are being scolded by a flight attendant. Her tone is sharp, her words cutting through the cabin like a knife. Passengers shift uncomfortably in their seats, unsure of what's happening, but feeling the tension rise. The boys, visibly upset, try to explain themselves, but the flight attendant isn't having it. "You're being disruptive," she says, firmly, her voice carrying a finality that leaves no room for argument. And just like that, she makes a decision that will change everything. She tells them to get off the plane. But what she doesn't know is that this isn't just any ordinary flight, and these aren't just any ordinary boys. In fact, this decision will set off a chain of events that will leave everyone on board, and eventually the entire world, stunned. The story begins with a simple family trip. Two brothers, Jamal and Malik, are traveling alone for the first time. Their parents, busy with work, decided it was time for the boys to learn a little independence. They're excited, nervous, and maybe a little too energetic for a crowded airplane. But they're kids, after all. They laugh, they joke, they fidget in their seats. To most passengers, they're just being typical pre-teens. But to one flight attendant, their behavior crosses a line. She's been in the job for years, and she prides herself on maintaining order. To her, the boys are a disruption, and she's not about to let them ruin the flight for everyone else. What she doesn't realize is that her actions are about to spark a firestorm. As the boys are escorted off the plane, the other passengers exchange uneasy glances. Some feel sorry for the kids, while others are just relieved the commotion is over. But no one speaks up, no one dares to question the flight attendant's authority. Meanwhile, Jamal and Malik are left standing on the jet bridge, confused and humiliated. They don't understand what they did wrong. They were just being themselves, but little do they know, their ordeal is far from over. Because back on the plane, something unexpected is about to happen, something that will turn this entire situation on its head. The flight attendant, whose name is Linda, is confident she made the right call. She's dealt with unruly passengers before, and she's not about to let a couple of kids ruin her perfect record. But as she walks back to her seat, she notices something strange. The captain has left the cockpit and is heading straight for her. His face is pale, his expression unreadable. "Linda," he says quietly, "we need to talk." Her heart skips a beat. What could possibly be wrong? She follows him to a quiet corner of the plane, where he delivers the news that will shatter her confidence. "Those boys you just kicked off the plane," he begins, his voice trembling slightly. "Do you know who they are?" Linda shakes her head, confused. "No," she replies. "Should I?" The captain takes a deep breath. "Their grandfather," he says slowly, "owns this airline." The words hit Linda like a ton of bricks. Her mind races as she tries to process what she's just heard. How could this have happened? How could she not have known? But before she can say anything, the captain continues. "And it gets worse," he says. "Their father is on board. He's been sitting in first class this whole time." Linda's stomach drops. She feels the color drain from her face. This can't be happening. This can't be real. But it is. And as she looks around the cabin, she realizes that every eye is on her. The passengers have overheard everything. The tension is palpable, and the worst part, the boy's father is already on his feet, making his way toward her. His expression is calm, but there's a fire in his eyes that sends a chill down her spine. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will Linda lose her job? Will the boys be allowed back on the plane? And what about their father? What will he do? The answers to these questions will unfold in the next part of the story. But one thing is certain, this flight will never be forgotten. Not by Linda, not by the passengers, and certainly not by Jamal and Malik. Because sometimes life has a way of teaching us lessons we never saw coming. And for Linda, this is one lesson she'll never be able to forget. The cabin falls silent as the boy's father, a tall, well-dressed man with an air of quiet authority, approaches Linda. His name is Marcus Carter, and he's not just any passenger, he's the son of the airline's founder, a man whose name is synonymous with luxury travel and impeccable service. Marcus had been quietly reading a book in first class, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in the back of the plane. But now, as he stands before Linda, his calm demeanor is a stark contrast to the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Excuse me," he says, his voice steady but firm. "Can you explain to me why my sons were just removed from this flight?" Linda opens her mouth to respond, but no words come out. Her mind is a whirlwind of panic and regret. How could she have missed this? How could she not have known who those boys were? She stammers, trying to find the right words, but Marcus doesn't wait for an answer. "I'd like to speak to the captain," he says, his tone leaving no room for argument. The captain, who has been standing nearby, steps forward. "Mr. Carter," he begins, "I assure you, this is all a misunderstanding. We'll get your sons back on board immediately." But Marcus holds up a hand, cutting him off. "I'm not interested in excuses," he says. "I want to know what happened, and I want to know now." As the captain and Linda scramble to explain, the other passengers watch in stunned silence. No one dares to move or speak. The tension is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Meanwhile, Jamal and Malik are still standing on the jet bridge, confused and upset. They don't understand why they were kicked off the plane, and they're starting to feel scared. "What's going on?" Jamal whispers to his brother. "I don't know," Malik replies, his voice trembling. "But I think we're in trouble." Just then, a ground crew member approaches them. "Boys," he says gently, "come with me. Your father wants to see you." Back on the plane, Marcus listens as Linda and the captain try to explain their actions. Linda insists that the boys were being disruptive, that they were disturbing the other passengers. But Marcus isn't buying it. "They're kids," he says, his voice rising slightly. "They're excited. They're nervous. That's no reason to kick them off a plane." The captain nods, trying to placate him. "You're absolutely right. Mr. Carter," he says, "this was a mistake and we'll make sure it doesn't happen again." But Marcus isn't satisfied. "A mistake?" he repeats. "Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm standing it looks like something else entirely." The implication hangs heavy in the air. Marcus doesn't say it outright, but everyone knows what he's thinking. Was this about race? Was Linda quick to judge because the boys are black? The question is unspoken, but it's there, lurking beneath the surface. Linda feels a knot of dread tighten in her stomach. She knows how this looks. She knows how it could be interpreted. But she also knows that wasn't her intention, or was it? She's not so sure anymore. Her mind races as she tries to remember every detail of the interaction. Did she treat the boys differently because of their race? She doesn't think so, but now she's second-guessing herself. As the tension mounts, the passengers begin to murmur among themselves. Some are sympathetic to Linda, believing she was just doing her job. Others are outraged, convinced that this was a clear case of discrimination. A woman in the back row pulls out her phone and starts recording, determined to capture every moment of the unfolding drama. Meanwhile, Jamal and Malik are led back onto the plane, their faces a mix of relief and confusion. They see their father standing in the aisle and they rush to his side. "Dad," Jamal says, his voice shaking, "what's going on? Why did they make us get off?" Marcus puts a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "It's okay," he says. "We're going to figure this out." But figuring it out won't be easy. The situation is complicated and emotions are running high. Marcus knows he needs to handle this carefully. He's not just a father, he's a representative of the airline, and his actions will have far-reaching consequences. But he's also a man who's fiercely protective of his children, and he's not about to let this slide. "I want a full investigation," he says to the captain. "I want to know exactly what happened, and I want to know who's responsible." The captain nods, but Linda feels a chill run down her spine. She knows she's in trouble. Big trouble. As the plane finally prepares for takeoff, the mood in the cabin is anything but relaxed. The passengers are on edge, the crew is tense, and Marcus is deep in thought. He knows this isn't just about his sons. It's about something much bigger. It's about fairness, about equality, about the way people are treated based on the color of their skin. And he knows that whatever happens next, it's going to have a ripple effect far beyond this flight. But for now, all he can do is sit back and wait for answers, wait for justice, wait for the truth. And as the plane lifts off the ground, one thing is clear: this is far from over. The story of Jamal and Malik, of Linda, of Marcus, and of everyone on that plane is just beginning. And the world is watching. What happens next will change lives, spark debates, and maybe even make history. But for now, the only thing anyone can do is wait. Wait and see how this incredible, unbelievable story will unfold. Because one thing's for sure: it's going to be a flight no one will ever forget. As the plane climbs higher into the sky, the tension inside the cabin doesn't lift. If anything, it grows heavier. Marcus sits with his sons in first class, his arm around their shoulders, trying to reassure them. Jamal and Malik are still shaken, their earlier excitement replaced by confusion and a hint of fear. "Dad," Malik whispers, "are we in trouble? Did we do something wrong?" Marcus looks at his sons, his heart aching. "No," he says, firmly. "You didn't do anything wrong. This isn't about you. This is about something much bigger." But even as he says the words, he knows they don't fully understand. How could they? They're just kids. Meanwhile, Linda is in the galley, trying to steady her nerves. Her hands tremble as she pours a cup of coffee, the steam rising in front of her face. She can feel the weight of the passengers' stares, the whispers that follow her every move. She knows they're talking about her, judging her, and she can't blame them. She's judging herself. Was she too quick to act? Did she let her own biases cloud her judgment? She doesn't want to believe it, but the doubt is there, gnawing at her. She's always prided herself on being fair, on treating everyone equally. But now, she's not so sure. In the back of the plane, the passengers are buzzing with conversation. A man in a business suit leans over to his seatmate, a woman in her 30s, and says, "Did you see that? She just kicked those kids off the plane for no reason." The woman nods, her expression grim. "I know. It didn't sit right with me. They were just being kids." Across the aisle, another passenger disagrees. "She was just doing her job," he says. "Kids can be disruptive. She had to maintain order." But his words are met with skeptical looks. The woman who's been recording the whole thing on her phone pipes up. "It's not that simple," she says. "There's more to this story, and people need to see it." As the flight continues, the atmosphere grows more charged. The crew tries to go about their duties, but it's clear that everyone is on edge. The captain makes an announcement, his voice calm but strained. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay and any inconvenience caused. We appreciate your patience as we work to resolve this matter." But his words do little to ease the tension. If anything, they only add to the sense that something big is about to happen. Marcus, meanwhile, is deep in thought. He knows he needs to handle this carefully. He's not just a father, he's a businessman, a public figure. His family's name is on the side of this plane, and whatever happens next will reflect on them. But he's also a man who believes in justice, in doing what's right, and he knows that what happened to his sons isn't right. He pulls out his phone and starts typing a message to his father, the airline's founder. "We need to talk," he writes. "Something happened on the flight. It's serious." He hesitates for a moment before hitting send. He knows this will set off a chain reaction, but he also knows it's necessary. Back in the galley, Linda is trying to focus on her work, but her mind keeps drifting back to the boys. She remembers the look on their faces as they were escorted off the plane. Confused, scared, humiliated. It's a look she's seen before, but never directed at her. She feels a pang of guilt, but she pushes it aside. She can't afford to fall apart now. She has a job to do. But as she looks around the cabin, she can't shake the feeling that she's being watched, judged. And she knows that whatever happens next, her life is about to change. As the plane cruises through the sky, the story of what happened begins to spread. The woman who recorded the incident posts the video online, and it quickly starts to gain traction. Within minutes, it's being shared across social media, with hashtags like Jai Justice for Jamal and Malik and the airline scandal trending. People are outraged, demanding answers. Some are calling for Linda to be fired, while others are defending her, saying she was just doing her job. The debate is fierce, and it's only just beginning. Marcus, unaware of the growing storm online, is focused on his sons. He knows they're still upset, and he wants to make sure they're okay. "Listen," he says, his voice gentle but firm. "What happened back there wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes people make mistakes, and when they do, it's important to hold them accountable. That's what we're going to do." Jamal and Malik nod, but they still look uncertain. They don't fully understand what's happening, but they trust their dad, and they know he'll do whatever it takes to make things right. As the plane begins its descent, the tension in the cabin reaches a boiling point. The passengers are restless, the crew is on edge, and Marcus is preparing for what comes next. He knows that when they land, there will be questions, investigations, consequences, and he's ready to face them. But he also knows that this is just the beginning. The story of what happened on this flight is far from over, and the world is watching. As the wheels touch down, one thing is clear. This is a story that will have far-reaching consequences for Marcus, for Linda, for the airline, and for everyone who was on that plane. It's a story about fairness, about justice, about the way we treat each other, and it's a story that's just getting started, because when the doors open and the passengers step off the plane, they're stepping into a world that's already buzzing with the news of what happened. And what happens next will change everything. As the plane taxis to the gate, the cabin is eerily silent. The usual chatter of passengers gathering their belongings is absent, replaced by a tense, almost suffocating quiet. Everyone knows something monumental has happened, but no one knows what comes next. Marcus sits with his sons, his jaw tight, his mind racing. He's already received a text from his father. "Meet me at the office as soon as you land. We need to handle this immediately." Marcus knows what that means. This isn't just a family matter anymore. It's a crisis for the entire airline, and it's about to explode. Linda, still in the galley, feels her stomach churn as the plane comes to a stop. She knows the moment the doors open, her life will change forever. The video of the incident has already gone viral, and she's seen the comments flooding in, some defending her, but most calling for her job, her reputation, even her head. She spent her entire career building a life she's proud of, and now it feels like it's all crumbling in front of her. She takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but the weight of what's coming is too much. She glances at her phone, which has been buzzing non-stop with notifications. One message catches her eye, a text from her sister. "Call me as soon as you can. We need to talk." Linda knows what that means too. Her family has seen the video. They know, and they're worried. The passengers begin to disembark, but the usual rush to exit is replaced by a slow, almost reluctant trickle. People glance at Marcus and his sons as they pass, some offering sympathetic smiles, others avoiding eye contact. Altogether, The woman who recorded the incident lingers near the front, her phone still in hand. She's live streaming now, narrating the scene to her growing audience. "We've just landed," she says quietly, "and the tension is unreal. Everyone knows something big is about to happen. Stay tuned." Her viewers are flooding the comments with questions, demands, and predictions. But she doesn't have answers. Not yet. As Marcus steps off the plane with Jamal and Malik, he's met by a small group of airline staff, their faces tense and apologetic. "Mr. Carter," one of them says, "your father is waiting for you in the executive lounge. He's asked that you come straight there." Marcus nods, his expression unreadable. He turns to his sons and crouches down to their level. "Listen," he says softly, "I need you to go with this nice lady here. She's going to take you to get some snacks, okay? I'll be back soon." Jamal and Malik nod, their eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and fear. They don't fully understand what's happening, but they know it's serious. As Marcus heads toward the executive lounge, Linda is escorted off the plane by 2 security officers. The sight of her being led away sends a ripple through the remaining passengers. Whispers turn into murmurs, and the woman with the phone zooms in, capturing every moment. "This is it," she says to her viewers. "The flight attendant is being taken away. This story is about to blow up even more." Linda keeps her head down, her face pale, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. She doesn't resist, doesn't speak. She knows there's no point. The wheels are already in motion. In the executive lounge, Marcus finds his father, Robert Carter, pacing back and forth. Robert is a tall, imposing man with a reputation for being both fair and ruthless. He built the airline from the ground up, and he's not about to let one incident tarnish its name. But as he turns to face his son, his expression is uncharacteristically grim. "Marcus," he says, "we need to talk, now." Marcus nods, bracing himself for what's coming. He knows his father well enough to know that this isn't going to be easy. Meanwhile, in a small office nearby, Linda is seated across from a stern-looking woman from HR and a union representative. The HR woman slides a folder across the table. "Linda," she says, her tone formal and cold, "we need to discuss the incident on the flight. The video has gone viral, and the backlash is significant. We need to hear your side of the story." Linda swallows hard, her throat dry. She knows this is her chance to explain, to defend herself, but the words feel stuck in her chest. How does she explain something she's not even sure she understands? Back in the lounge, Marcus and his father are deep in conversation. "This isn't just about the boys," Robert says, his voice low but intense. "This is about the airline, our reputation, our future. We need to handle this carefully, but we also need to act fast." Marcus nods, but his mind is elsewhere. He's thinking about Jamal and Malik, about the look on their faces when they were taken off the plane. He's thinking about Linda, about what she must be going through. And he's thinking about the bigger picture, the systemic issues that led to this moment. "Dad," he says slowly, "this isn't just about us. This is about something much bigger, and we need to get it right." As the hours pass, the tension continues to build. The airline's PR team is in overdrive, trying to craft a statement that will appease the public without admitting fault. Marcus is pulled into meeting after meeting, each one more intense than the last. Linda, meanwhile, is left waiting, her future hanging in the balance. The woman with the phone is still live streaming, her audience growing by the minute. "This is far from over," she says, her voice filled with anticipation. "Something big is about to happen. Stay tuned." And she's right, because as the day wears on, the stakes only get higher. The story has caught the attention of major news outlets, and reporters are already gathering at the airport, demanding answers. Social media is ablaze with opinions, accusations, and calls for justice. And behind the scenes, Marcus, Robert, and Linda are all grappling with the weight of what's happened and what's to come. The climax is near. The tension is unbearable, and the world is watching. What happens next will change everything. But for now, all anyone can do is wait. Wait and see how this incredible, unbelievable story will unfold. Because one thing's for sure, it's going to be a moment no one will ever forget.